Welcome to The Claw. I'm Eric Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist at Liger. The Claw is the marketing podcast for C-suite executives. I am joined today by Mickie Kennedy. He is with eReleases, and we're going to talk about all things PR, which is one of my favorite components of the marketing ecosystem. So, Mickie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So, tell me a little bit about how you got into the crazy world of public relations, PR, that kind of thing.
I was a graduate student in MFA program in Northern Virginia.
Okay.
And I was graduating with a degree in poetry. So MFA in creative writing with an emphasis in poetry.
Okay.
My game plan was to be a waiter and write poetry on the side.
Nice.
And so I did that for a summer after graduating, and realized that my ankles, my knees, my back couldn't handle it, and my mind was just fried. And I was just like, I need a safe office job. So I applied and became employee number 3 at a telecom research startup. And one of the first things they said is, hey, you have writing background, figure out press releases for us. And so I did, and I wrote them and sent them out, and I started to get really good at determining what the media wanted based on, what we had. We had a lot of data, and, rather than just dump data on them, it was a matter of, figuring out what data was interesting to them and sort of, figuring out where the stories lied, where within that data. I remember, for example, there was one country in the Caribbean that accounted for more back and forth traffic with the U.S. telecom traffic than all other Caribbean countries combined. And it was because it was like the call center for 1-900 numbers at that time.
Okay, yeah.
And so the Wall Street Journal ran with that. Financial Times did. We routinely got picked up by The Economist and a lot of national publications as well. And I felt like, wow, why isn't everyone doing this? Once you figure out, what your industry is interested in, it's really easy. And it's not as easy as that, because not every business has so much data at their fingertips. But I did realize that I had a sixth sense for figuring out, reverse engineer how to get what you want to announce in a way that the journalists would find appealing. And so I launched eReleases. It'll be 25 years in October. And I had, just with the idea of being a matchmaker between me and journalists and sending them press releases by email. Over the years, PR Newswire reached out to us and said, hey, you should also send your releases through us. And I was like, hey, you charge $1,200 to $1,500 to send a release out nationally. And my clients are spending, 25% of that. I don't think it's going to be a fit. And surprisingly, they didn't run away. They liked the fact that we were serving small businesses and people that their salespeople would never reach out to, because, best case scenario, they're doing 3 or 4 releases a year, and it's just not worth their time, especially with budgets of, under $500. And so, we found a way to work together, and all of the releases that we send out go out nationally over PR Newswire for a fraction of the price. Today, we're sending, as many as 12 to 14,000 press releases a year. So we do represent a large cooperative of small businesses and entrepreneurs and startups. And, we're able to pass that savings along to them.
Nice. Really cool. I love that. And I love your background, the fact that you kind of started in that MFA category. So what school did you go to, just out of curiosity?
I went to George Mason University. Okay. At the time, Carolyn Forche was there, who I just adored and loved. And I still write poetry. I'm working on finishing up my second book, still trying to find a publisher for the first book.
Okay.
But it's something that I walked away from for about 20 years and picked up about, 6 or 7 years ago.
Nice. Okay. So our company works a lot in kind of the B2B space. So we have a lot of business to business, and, adding sort of, it's interesting because they think of or look at press releases as earnings. Like, we're going to put out our earnings report, or we're going to do whatever. Talk to me a little bit about like the power of using press releases in a different way. And you kind of touched on it a little bit with having, I love when a company will do like a tracking study or something. So like, what's some of the tips and techniques you've learned over the years in this category?
What I've learned is that, journalists love data and numbers. Doesn't have to be your data or numbers. Sometimes it's just you packaging a lot of available public data out there in an interesting way, and then sort of contextualizing what it is you're announcing within that data. For example, if you have a product or solution that you've launched a new iteration or completely from the ground up this new product or service, having that data leading into it, like 62% of all businesses in the industry face this challenge, and now we're introducing the solution for it. That really makes you stand out, and it helps the journalist to have something more concrete to build a story on. At the end of the day, journalists are story builders, and so many people forget that. They write a press release based on what their goal is: get more customers, and here is our new product, and here's a list of features. But a product launch with just a list of features in a press release rarely gets a lot of attention and media pickup. But things you could do to flesh it out more, to build more of a story, would be like a use case study. A customer that beta tested it or tried it out, what their experience was, a quote by them about how great this is for solving their problems. Maybe even adding some more of that data that's out there about, this isn't just a problem for this company, but 42% of companies over $10 million a year in revenue face this challenge, and things like that. So there are definitely ways to incorporate and make something more newsworthy if you just pay attention to building out a story arc. What are the ingredients a journalist needs? And, rather than what it is you want, which is just, a lot of customers and promotion and things like that. So you do have to reverse engineer and tweak a little bit at what you're doing. Other things that are really important, going back to data and numbers, is doing a survey or study within your industry. I've coached a lot of small businesses who feel like we are not important enough to matter to be able to do a survey or study. But the thing is, anybody can do a survey or study. It's just a matter of doing it, executing it, and analyzing the results and putting together a press release about the biggest aha moments of that survey, and your thoughts and analysis as to why you feel it's skewed a particular way, usually through first-person quotes that you have within the press release. And, the great thing about a survey, if you ask really relevant questions that are, very timely, like, what's going on right now, the media is interested. And the great thing is, if you ask the right questions, you can take the same survey in 6 months and they'll be just as interested in the results then, because everything's changing and everything's evolving. So, when you ask the right questions, it is something that the media will definitely respond to and write articles about it. On average, the people that I coach through a survey or study often get between 6 and 12, sometimes as many as 14 articles from one press release, which is just a phenomenal result when you have some small PR firms that charge $20,000 to $30,000 a year, and there's no guarantee of any media pickup.
Right.
A survey or study is a big ask for small businesses, but if you break it down, it's not that difficult. You can use SurveyMonkey, 4 questions per page, four pages, total of 16 questions, the most important ones first. That way, if someone leaves halfway through the survey, you've still got 8 of the most important questions answered. And then it's a matter of getting the survey in front of your industry. And so many people feel like they don't have enough contacts to do that. But really, if you reach out to an independent or small trade association in your industry, often if you tell them that you'll mention them in the press release you'll be issuing over the wire, they will gladly send it out either through social media or email. And sometimes you can get them to do both.
Yeah. And I love the idea of like looking for that aha moment. That's I owned a qualitative firm for a period of time. And that was always my favorite part, is when we would do something and like that, we had no idea that was going to be the thing. And that's, often the one. And journalists, you talk about them, looking for the story. I wrote for Inc. for a couple of years, and you're trying to write something every week. You got to come up with a topic, right? So like, having someone feed over something that's interesting that you can use as a jumping off point or a way to kind of tell that story is you're doing them a favor. If you do it right, you're doing them a favor at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so small businesses, so talk to me, like when you talk about that, like what does an ideal target or client look like for someone who would be using your service?
Generally, they're doing less than $10 million a year revenue.
Okay.
We work with some really small businesses where it's just mom and pops. We also work with authors. We used to work with mostly self-published authors, but now we work with a lot of authors who are being published by traditional publishers who just aren't marketing anymore.
Yeah.
And so they're leaving it up to them to have to do it.
Yeah, I did a book in 2013 and I had to do all the marketing around the book. So if you think about it from a business perspective, then like how often or when does someone know, well, like how do I know that maybe it's time to do a press release? Like what would be some of the indicators that it would be a good time to add that into my marketing mix?
Right. So you're looking for natural milestones that occur in a business, like maybe it's a major anniversary, maybe it's a new product launch that you're doing or a new iteration of a product, 2.0, 3.0. Sometimes it can be just joining a conversation that's out there. Years ago, there was a lot of mileage made of the concept of newsjacking, where there's a trend in your industry and you join it. And it doesn't work any longer, but it could work if you're willing to take a contrarian viewpoint. So if you have something that's very popular or trending in your industry, most people are doing press releases, just joining the conversation, saying, yes, we agree. And here's how the solutions that we have to solve it. After the credit card breach of Target years ago, I think I counted over 1,000 security consultants or firms putting out press releases over a 6-month period. And if you are just sending out another press release that saying the same thing as everyone else, no one's going to cover you. But if you raise your hand and say, hey, here's a contrarian viewpoint on a topic, everybody's saying, let's take the environment. Everyone's like pro-electric car, it seems. But if you're the one person who raises their hand and says, not so fast, the minerals and the environmental hazards of mining this is problematic, not to mention labor problems. Often, young children going into mines. Also, you have the problem of what do we do with these batteries at the end of their life? Not to mention some of these cars catch on fire and fire departments are having trouble putting them out. So maybe we shouldn't embrace it so quickly until we've solved some of these issues. And that's a way to be rational and contrarian. And by being contrarian, every time a journalist covers the topic, you stand the likelihood that they could plug you in. Because journalists like to cover both sides, but often they go to print with just one side because no one's there raising their hand saying, wait, not so fast. And so if you are willing to be contrarian, that's another great way to sort of stand out. You do want to make sure any viewpoints that you have are not going to alienate you with your customer base. That is my one warning for people who really embrace the contrarian viewpoint, that you want to make sure that you're taking a stand that you're comfortable with. And that there'll be no backlash.
Yeah, I wrote an article years ago, this was before the pandemic, about working from home. And because I've always been a proponent of a hybrid model, like I've done it forever, right? And Marissa Mayer was the Yahoo CEO. And I got interviewed by CNN because I had written an article about how it was a good thing. And she was trying to get everybody to come back into the office. And so they interviewed me. Like this was way before now everybody works from home, but this was like pre that. So like having that contrarian view to, the world and what it looks like is a good way to position it. All right. So we're going to come back. I'm going to go to commercial break. When we come back, I want to get some additional tips. Like what are some ways that, I should think about press releases and maybe, assure, I know that's a strong word, but then I'm going to get that coverage, right? Like if I'm going to put it out there, is there other things I should be doing? Is there, ways I should make sure that that's going to have a better chance of being successful? So we're going to go to break. We'll be back in just a second. I'm talking today with Mickie Kennedy. He's with eReleases. You are listening to The Claw, which is a podcast for C-suite marketing executives brought to you by Liger. I am Eric Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist.
The Claw podcast is brought to you by Liger Partners. Liger Partners is a premier marketing firm where we save the world from boring, broken marketing. We get underdogs recognition because you deserve it. For more information, go to ligerpartners.com and follow us on all social media platforms at Liger Partners.
And we're back. You're listening to The Claw. I'm Eric Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist at Liger. The Claw is brought to you by Liger, and we talk to C-suite marketing executives about marketing tactics, trends, and strategies. One of my favorite, which is something that companies typically add kind of later in the mix, is how do I use PR and earned media and some of those kind of things to get my company out there? I have an expert in that category today. He's a poet and he knows it. Haha. Mickie Kennedy, he's with eReleases. Mickie, thanks so much for continuing the conversation. So if I'm going to start using this as one of the things in my, quiver, what are some ways that I can, quote unquote, guarantee or make my chances greater that I'm going to get that coverage I'm looking for?
I think one of the biggest things is just recognizing that what you want to promote has to align with what a journalist wants to share with their audience. And often they do not. You want to promote and sell your product, and the way you've written it, you just don't have enough there for a journalist to feel like it builds a compelling story. So, take and try to create these win-win situations where you take a product and you incorporate elements into the press release that allows a journalist to more likely cover you. What builds more of a story arc. Sometimes it can be, you sharing your story of how this product came to be or how your company came to be. There's a reason that, everybody that appears on Shark Tank shares a cute or interesting or, entertaining story about how this product or their company came to be. And it immediately humanizes you and personalizes you, but it also creates this story element that, here's this path. And I think that a lot of people identify with entrepreneurs and small businesses because of their stories. And they're not always positive.
Oh,
Sometimes they're obstacles that you overcame. They're being vulnerable about something, maybe a health issue that you had or a pivot that you had to make. But some of my clients who've shared embarrassing stories in a press release have resulted in great earned media. One was picked up as the lead into an article about them in Inc. magazine. And, they did not want to include it, but I sort of pushed them and said, I really think that this is going to do well. And it did. And I think that, anything that allows you to be, authentic and also personable, it allows you to build this trust and authority in the press release that can be conveyed to an article. Other things I think that people don't realize or take advantage of is, blind spots. Every time you go to a trade show or conference, I tell you, you get people in a room and they start talking about things like, have you noticed that they never cover X, Y, or Z? Or maybe you just share, does it seem like everybody who's usually paying net 30 is now taking 60 to 90 days to pay? Those are little gaps, little things that aren't being covered in your industry that potentially could be pointing towards something.
Yeah.
So, look at those gaps, look at those little blind spots in your industry and see if it's something you can talk about. I had a carpet company in New Jersey that, we had a year campaign with them, and I felt bad taking their money because 5 months we did press releases each month and nothing happened. And, we were doing a brainstorm and they mentioned that their biggest enemy was big box home improvement stores. And I was like, oh, we could do like a David versus Goliath thing. And they shared all the reasons that the big box home improvement stores are bad for the carpet industry and how they market against them. And we did a press release and it got picked up by over a dozen floor trade publications.
Oh, wow.
And we continued to exploit that blind spot by talking about marketing and big box home improvement stores in general. And over a 1 year period, they got almost 30 articles, including a local newspaper in New Jersey magazine where they were located. And, it worked out really well for them, except for the fact, as I pointed out, most of these trade publications, your customers aren't reading them.
Yeah.
And they were smarter than I was. They had put together a big brag book, and it had about 30 plus clippings in it of all of their media pickup and that they had printed out. And every time they go and give a quote, they say, hey, we may not come in the cheapest, but, we stand by our product. Our installers are vetted and many are industry veterans. And here we are in Floor Trade Weekly. Here we are in this publication. Here we are in the local newspaper. Here we are in New Jersey Magazine. And they started converting 17% more of these leads when they go into someone's home and give them a quote. And, that's really good when you're competing by, mostly just on price a lot of the times. and they found that they were winning so many sales. And I think it's because of that third party corroboration of getting media pickup. It's almost like social proof, or maybe even an implied endorsement that, you know, a journalist has written about you. And it's a huge credibility boost. And it really almost works like a referral in a way, in which, you know, I've read really a lot of great articles over the years about Kickstarter campaigns. And I just pull out my wallet and, you know, try to find the Kickstarter campaign and give them my money.
Yeah.
And I'm not, you know, trying to see, is there something similar on Amazon I can buy? I've got this warm feeling about this cause where they've told the story of its genesis and the, you know, the need they identified. And, you know, you just really feel for somebody. And that's the power of earned media.
Yeah. And that we like it as we look at the website, content, SEO, and social, and then that becomes the next piece we're adding, so that way we're getting those links. And, you know, we also know the customer spends more time in other parts of your ecosystem than your website to figure out who you are. That's a great way to get that, you know, confirmation and that type of thing. I've got one little tip on the receiving side of the newsletter. Of a press release to give people. So I would get press releases that were within my category, that were perfectly good for a story for me, like something I would write about, and I wouldn't write about it. And the reason I wouldn't write about it, they would think it was a failed attempt at like sending out a press release, is I would go check that company's social media and see if they were sharing things where they were being covered, and I would find that they weren't sharing. So like, you know, the company having some kind of presence and like pushing it out, because so often the person who's writing it, they're getting graded by the number of people who read the article or think about it. So, you know, I was always looking for them to help promote it. So just a little tip. I'd have like things come across and I'm like, yeah, no, you don't even share anything on social. If I go write this, you're not even going to help me promote it to your people. So you talked about, you and I were talking in the break, you've got a master class, you've got a class that people can go through to like learn the tips and tricks.
Yes. I basically, during the pandemic, looked at my customers that were just killing it and trying to find patterns. The survey study is one. I have one client, Clutch, that does like 30 surveys a year off of a lot of little micro verticals industries. And I've been able to coach people through that. And these are vetted types of strategic press releases you could be doing, rather than the average type of press release that doesn't do much. And it's at eReleases.com/plan, PLAN, and it's a free video masterclass, less than an hour.
Okay.
If you're considering PR or open to it, it's a great place to take an audit of your business and say, does any of these align with my business and what I'm doing? If so, these could really be great types of strategic press releases you could build into a PR campaign of, say 6 to 8 press releases and give PR a chance.
Perfect. And so future, what do you see is what's interesting or exciting to you as this industry continues to evolve?
Well, I think AI is really interesting for writing press releases. The thing I like about it is, the press release isn't what's, being turned into it's being turned into an article. The actual end product is an article written by a journalist. So the press release is just a tool for the journalist. So I feel like the concerns of, AI content is different from, like, I wouldn't have AI content on my blog or anything like that. But I do feel like a press release, I could see a use case study of using AI content. And I think that's interesting. I've been able to coach a few examples of press releases using AI. I find the best thing is where you kind of know what you want the opening paragraph to be and the subsequent paragraphs, rather than just say, write me a whole press release on this subject.
Yeah.
But I find the writing is generally pretty good and surprising. And I think that potentially, if I feel that your writing is preventing you from doing press releases, I feel like it's completely appropriate to sort of try to use it to assist you in putting together good sentences and things like that. I think the other thing that I feel is growing, and I don't see it yet, but I do see the potential for it, is the video press release. I think that people are beginning to consider adding B-roll and video content as a supplement to the press release. Yeah. But I could potentially see in 10 years that, the video press release replacing potentially the written press release, because so much content is being consumed in video as opposed to writing.
Yeah, and having the video works well when someone needs that for kind of what they're doing as part of their article or thinking about it. Very interesting.
Right.
And in AI, I see it as it creates it, but you have to know how to curate it, right? And researching a topic, I love it for researching a topic. At least it gives you like a sense of where you should head. So what I like about it is that AI is awake during my insomnia minutes in the middle of the night, so I can talk to the AI about a thing when I can't Slack somebody at the office. So, well, great. Thank you so much for talking to me about it. I love this as a topic. It's one that we always get clients to add, but it's something that they typically do a little later. So it's like they don't start there. You know, it's like, hey, we really think this could be an accelerant. We see this as definitely like an accelerant to all the other marketing strategies and tactics they have in place. And it's one that can really give you some great leverage if you've got a good story to tell and all the content to kind of capture them across that the rest of that customer journey. So thanks for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, so Mickie Kennedy has joined me today from eReleases. You've been listening to The Claw. I'm Eric Holscott, Chief Strategist at Liger. Thanks so much, and until we tune in next time.